For more on the latest economic data and U.S. tariffs, let's turn to Raj Bhala, distinguished professor at University of Kansas and an expert in international trade law. Professor, let me begin with the latest U.S. economic data. These CPI figures, what do they tell us about the pace of inflation? What do they tell us about U.S. tariffs and how they're driving up costs?
Well, thank you for having me. It's really too early to tell. Let's keep in mind that we are only about 205, 206 days into the second Trump administration. And the reciprocity tariffs, the worldwide reciprocity tariffs, only came into effect on the 200th day, around 7th of August. So it's far too early to see the full effects of the tariffs on the consumer price index. But as we know, we can reasonably forecast, we will see inflationary effects on the core inflation measure you mentioned that's already running at 3.1% as time goes forward if these tariffs remain in effect. They are comprehensive, they are significant, and the tariffs on China, another category, are also staying in effect. So it's hard to imagine that inflation will come down anytime soon. It is probably also as consumers anticipate higher inflation, they're curtailing their purchases or postponing their purchases on all kinds of items. So I would say wait and see, but the outcome is probably quite cloudy.
All right, well, you bring up China, so let's talk about this latest extension on this tariff deadline. It has been pushed now another 90 days. How significant is it?
It's significant in that it's bad and, dare I also say, sad news. The U.S.-China trade war was launched during the first Trump administration in March of 2018, and everyone knows on all sides what the core issues are: intellectual property rights protection, industrial subsidies, state-owned enterprise reform, currency manipulation, alleged bilateral trade imbalances. None of those issues has been addressed at all since.
Well, doesn't this give them more time to address those issues? 90 days, they have 3 months.
It does give them more time technically, but if you look at the easier issues, if you will, the lower hanging fruit, fentanyl, immigration, maybe some additional purchases by China of agricultural goods like soybeans from Kansas, which is 12.5% of Kansas exports. Those issues haven't been resolved either. So if you can't resolve across the first 200 days the simpler issues, it doesn't look good that there's going to be a comprehensive deal.
Well, President Trump appears to be I don't want to use the word optimistic, but every chance he gets, he wants the world to know that relations with China are on good footing and negotiations are ongoing, and he has shown flexibility towards China, but not so much, Professor, with India and Brazil, major economies, key trading partners. Could these tariffs push India and Brazil, which, by the way, are also BRICS members, to try and find alternate alliances, if you will?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, first of all, from the U.S. and Indian perspectives, this is lose-lose. The Indian side has missed another opportunity dating back to the Uruguay round to reform its agricultural sector. And it's long known since the Russian invasion of Ukraine that the U.S. is unhappy with its purchases of Russian oil. And the long-term purchase contracts don't go on for 2.5 years. From the American side, it has possibly catalyzed what in independence terms, that is the Indian independence terms, would be a Gandhi-like Swadeshi movement. Swadeshi is the term for basically of one's own country, buy your own, be self-reliant. And all the big brand names in India from the U.S., that is, Apple and Starbucks, the list goes on and on, Domino's Pizza. The Indian side is boycotting them.
Yeah.
Well, what are they doing? Turning to themselves domestically and turning, as you rightly say, to third countries like Brazil. where they have stable relations, growing relations, and they have, for whatever it amounts to, a partnership through the BRICS.
Well, we're running out of time. I really want to also touch upon what we heard on these tech giants. NVIDIA and AMD have reportedly agreed to pay the U.S. government 15% of the revenue from sale of some advanced AI chips to China in exchange for export licenses. Professor, this seems rather unusual, and I think there's some concerns it could also be unconstitutional. What's your take on this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's unusual. In fact, it's unprecedented. And the Constitution in Article 1 is very clear. There's a prohibition on export taxes. And paying 15% to the federal government, directly or indirectly, for the ability to export merchandise is a payment that looks like a tax that's contingent on exports. And the Supreme Court's jurisprudence on that is pretty clear. So I would expect constitutional challenges up to that 15%.
All right, Professor Raj Bhala, thank you so much.